I'll give you the 5-minute signal so you can wind down. Oh, you got 2 extra minutes.
So don't pray for your kids to stay close to you, please. That's my thing to say, because then they fight you forever.
Pray to go.
Yeah, right. Then I have to decide if I'm going to do what my dad thinks is right or what God's putting in my heart. It's just ugly. So, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to fix this. There we go. So I'm going to use my phone too, just because I've got my notes a little bit. I'm not try not to meander all over, but give you a bit of my life, what's going on, what I've done, where I've been, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, all that. So first, I wanted to, in honor of my father, tell a joke. So there's 2 truckers driving down the road, these semi-truckers, and they're just babbling back and forth. And one says, "Hey man, you want to meet up in Mejia? It's coming up here." And the guy said, "Man, that's not Mejia. That's Mexia. Come on, you know we're in Texas. That's the way they say it here." He said, "No, we're close to Mexico, so they say Mejia. It changes with the Spanish name and all that." So they're going back and forth, driving down the road. And he said, "All right, next town, we're stopping somewhere, and we're asking what the heck the name of this place is." So they get in, pull their trucks in, they stop at this place, they run in. Both are just angry as can be at each other. And look at the guy behind the counter and say, "What is the name of this place? I want you to say it nice and slow." And the guy says, "McDonald's." So I grew up with that joke, and I said I'd never be like my dad. So the other thing going into and praying for us to all stay around. I'm a gypsy. I just had some friends recently when they explained where I was in Africa. They basically said, we just start telling people that you're a gypsy, that you run all over the world and all over the place, and you will never probably have a solid space to just land at. So I keep, again, fighting the prayers of my father to not stay close. So I'm just going to run through everything, just give you everything, try to go quick. But I was, born to a good man, a great mother. Sorry. I keep finding that I spend a lot of time being not disrespectful probably, but just not doing the right things a lot of the time with my dad. And I've left his house for the last couple of years just saying thank you all the time. And that's my encouragement to you guys, parents, maybe parents, not parents, grandparents, whatever. Just be proud of your kids and take care of them. He tells me he's proud of me, and I'm sometimes like, I don't even know why. I don't get it, but he tells me that all the time. So even when I don't think that,
That's great.
I should be proud of myself. So the words that you speak are powerful. So know that. I was born in Dallas. I don't know how many of you know his story, but businessman. Found mom had for years been. They worked with the missions board at their church and all that, and they finally, I guess my mom had said, "I've been waiting for years for you to finally say we're going to get in mission." So they picked up and packed up everything, my 2 older sisters and myself, and we moved out to Denver to work with Youth with a Mission for, they didn't know how long, and we lived there for 7 years. I grew up just in taking trips down to Mexico, Belize, all that. Part of that is my story of just being able to see the world a little bit. I always just loved it. It was funny, I was telling somebody the other day about how I was telling them to rally. That's what I was saying. I was like, "Come on, we got like another hour. You can do it." They were tired, and they said, "I don't know how do you do this?" And I said, "Well, I used to get woken up by La Cucaracha at 6 a.m. in the morning in Mexico, so I've learned you just deal with whatever the heck happens." So, grew up with that, just fun. I mean, looking back, I just had such an amazing childhood of being loved by my parents, having a normal life of growing up, being taught the right things, the right way to do things, and but also experiencing the world in a way that I think a lot of people don't get to see. Part of that, part of my nature and stuff is one little story of just being in Mexico. And I remember going out. We made these sandwiches. It's one of the few memories I have as a kid that's really vivid of making these little bologna sandwiches and going and hand them out to people around town. And I just remember being like, as I look back on that, not thinking, oh, I need to give away something. I really thought, like as a kid, I remember thinking, they're hungry, I'm sure. Like if I was hungry, I'd want a sandwich. And so it was never this, oh, I have to give you something. I'm not trying to take it. It was just a fellow man kind of thing. And so I think God's put that on my heart. And soon that I've always been the guy that saw the kid at the table all by himself and wanted to, even if I didn't invite him over, I felt like I should have or gone and sat with him. So that's kind of been my nature growing up. It's just been something that I've had. I pick people up on the side of the road and all that, and it just is this side of who I am that it's been cool to see over the years what God's used that to do and how that's come about. But we moved around, moved to Hawaii. After that, we were there, so I was, I think, 9. Moved to Hawaii, moved to Arkansas, moved to Missouri, moved to Arkansas, moved to Wichita. My mom was diagnosed when we moved here with colon cancer, so she lived for about, I think it was 3 years. They gave her like 6 months, I think, something like that, and she lived for 3 years. So we got a lot of good time with her. Again, part of that, another interesting thing is, she said to me one day, I was always wanting to be a football player, I was going to be a baseball player, I was like, I'm going to the majors, all that. That was my thought. And one day she was sick, and I went and gave her some soup, and she said, Josh, I know you want to do great things in life, but do something great for God. And I just remember that. And so this last 6 months I was in South Sudan for 6 months, and I just remember thinking, man, she would have loved this. And I don't know what it's like after we die. I don't know what they get to see, what you get to see from far beyond. But I know that she was, her, guiding me, sent me there. And so, in ways, her teaching and all that. So, I'd say, again, I was a good kid. I grew up all that, knew the right things and the wrong things. And it's not a crack on my dad, but for me as a teacher, I'm starting to see so much newer things, and I think just different ways, but everything was very black and white. So now I'm trying to find this gray medium in the middle of trying to help kids that I know, like, you came from this really awful home, so how do I find you in the middle of that? And so it was funny, I kind of pushed, I think, and went gray with a lot of things that unfortunately, I guess, I didn't spend a whole lot of time completely going crazy. When I was about 18, I kind of had my first beer at 18. I waited until the middle of my high school year, and then from then on, it just kind of went downhill from there. And it was interesting to see. My friends were a huge part of that. It was, for you guys that are parents, maybe young kids, friends are a huge thing, and I don't say not to get your kids involved in things with other kids around, but to be very very careful of who they're with, because that was a huge thing. I knew, even in the midst of everything that was going on in my life, I knew, like, this is not a good thing, but I was being influenced by people. And so I don't know how you do that as a parent well, but to encourage your kids to continue to guide them to be a different angle. But sorry, this is all going to come around. But at 21, had a crazy experience with a friend. At a late night, we were out plowing snow and just had a crazy thing where it really freaked both of us out. It was basically weirdly, without being weird, had just a crazy demonic experience, and it basically was the catalyst that pushed me towards seeing, like, man, there's something wrong in my life. It didn't really have anything to do with us, it just was the thing that was, I don't know, however it happened, whether God used it or what, that scared me into being like, I gotta figure some things out. So God had been working on my heart before that, waking me up in the middle of the night with different things. I'd wake up and just have these thoughts, like, I'm made for more than being drunk with my friends. Like, I know this, and it was this thing for months just on my heart. And that happened. That was, I said I'd never go back to YWAM Denver, and if you tell God never, it's a really good way to end up doing whatever you say you never do. I keep being like, I'll never be a millionaire, God. I'll never do it. That hasn't happened yet. But so I said I'd never go back, and then this whole experience happened. It was really funny, just funny things that have happened. I remember seeing a sign for Colorado, and I like, without hearing the voice of God, heard, like, go west, young man, and I was like, okay, like, I guess I'll go to Colorado. And so went back there, went to do a DTS, which is the discipleship training school, and that is if you have kids, if you know people, I would highly say, if they're trying to figure things out, if they don't just want to go to college right away, if they do and they need to find something else, YWAM, Youth with a Mission, is a great place. Yeah. Everything's got its issues at times in different places, but it's a great place to really engage I'd say with a community of people that are really aiming towards Christ in everything they do. Again, there's always stuff that I change and we change about things, but that's my little pitch for them. But really, there, my first day, I realized that I had never fully known God. I had feared God in a way that I was like, if I don't, I remember being like, if I die, I'm going, like, that was my thought all the time. If I die, I'm going to hell. Like, that was always my thought. And it was so amazing. I finally had my first day at doing my discipleship training school with Youth with Mission. For whatever it was, my relationship with God switched my eyes, my view of it just switched to where I was like, we're good. Like, I knew it. I knew that we were good in whatever, way that was. And just so learned so much about the character, nature of God, His heart for us. And then in that process, it's a 3-month school, and then you go on a 2-month outreach. So I went to Thailand and was out in a few different places visiting and doing different, we'd say, humanitarian work, basically. Worked with an orphanage. There was part of our schooling stuff is to involve different things with the gospel and stuff like that. So we do puppet shows. They still do that, and things like that just to engage kids. But I think there was one of the times that I really saw, I had actually in high school had a baseball coach. Sorry, I'm going to meander around. But that was awesome, loved him, and then found out he was an elementary teacher. And I was like, oh, I enjoy working with kids. I was like, you're really cool. Like, you're a cool dude that's an elementary teacher. Okay. So that he was my reason for aiming towards that. I started right after high school. Didn't really go to school. I took classes that I didn't go to and stuff like that. So it was a bad idea. But so I was in Thailand though, and there was a little girl that was crying, like just would not stop. No matter who picked her up, no matter who did what, wouldn't. And I picked her up, and as soon as I was like, I'll give it a shot. And as soon as I picked her up, she immediately stopped crying and put her head on my shoulder and just stopped. And in that moment, it was this cool thing. Sorry. Again, God just, He was just like, you have a way with kids. I mean, it just was this thing that He spoke to my heart. And it's been fun to enjoy that with God, going like, man, that's something that you have given me that nobody else has in whatever facet. We all have our gifts or whatever. But that was, and so that's been something, as I saw that, it started becoming this thing again, like, oh, that's really important. Then I started seeing education around the world. I traveled to Haiti right after the earthquake, took a team there and of students, and so saw just these kids that loved learning. They loved going to school. They'd be there waiting outside the school, and it's kind of one of those, here you got, drag your kids kicking and screaming, and I was that kid too. But they're just seeing these kids that loved education, and so it kind of relit that fire in my heart for that. A couple months later, after Haiti, I led a team down in Brazil, worked an orphanage there for a couple months. Just had an amazing time there, just getting to travel around and do that. Again, just getting to see the world and see different cultures and different societies. And so it's interesting. That time was a really interesting time for me, that God had started to kind of show me that it was okay to question Him, and not question, not in a like fist in the air, but just, what is this and what is that? I think I had not really been good at doing that. I kind of just followed, which was okay. I just had followed this kind of line of, this is what I'm doing. And these questions started rising up in me, like, what about this and what about that? And why is this happening? And why are these kids in this orphanage? And why are you not doing anything? Not about it, just again, who are you kind of questions. It was really cool because that sent me in a direction. Then I worked, so I left YWAM after 3 years on staff. I was planning to go back to Brazil, move back here. I don't know if you guys know Dick Kelsey. They're friend, him and my father are friends, and so he was like, hey, I've got an opportunity for you guys to come and paint one of my lake houses. And so for my sister and my brother-in-law and I, so this is awesome, leaving here, going to go get paid to live on a lake house and just enjoy some time over the summer. And so we were there, we were talking to them about just kind of our hearts, my heart, what I was doing, what I wanted to do. And he's like, well, we have a drug and alcohol rehab for teen guys. Do you think you want to do it? I had just planned on working for a little bit, try to get some money to go to Brazil. Back there, I was going to go for a year, and ended up being at this, getting a job at this drug and alcohol rehab, had no idea. I remember like my first day going in and having one of the guys act like he was sick and had to take him to the ER and realizing all he wanted to do was get some pills. And it was this whole like, oh, like this is a whole different world than I've ever lived in. And so it was just, it's funny to look back at that and see after I spent 2.5 years there and just loved it. And I saw the City Life Cafe. I don't know if you guys know that. Yes. Father Greg Boyle is the starter of Homeboy Industries that built, and then the City Life built off them. And so I was funny, I was telling a friend of mine, hey, I got to figure out a way to make God cool and understandable to these guys. Like, they don't want to read the Bible, they don't care, they've grown up with drugs and parents that beat them and all this stuff. Like, they don't care about God. How do I do this? And I was thinking that, and I had a friend randomly send me a text going, hey, have you read this book from Father Greg Boyle? And it's called Tattoos on the Heart. And he started in the 70s working with gang members in LA. And so I read the book and I was like, holy smokes. So I started handing these guys that never read, hate books, just want to do drugs and play Xbox. I mean, literally that's so many of these guys' lives. And they would just eat and devour this book. And I realized, I was like, man, again, part of who I believe God's made me to be is not a pastor. I'm in the middle of this going, here's who God is relatable to you. And so that was really cool. I saw that there, and that was a really cool thing. So for 2.5 years, spent time with them, learning just what it looks like to truly love people who don't find themselves lovable, that don't have value, to speak value. My brother-in-law actually one time was like, I don't know how you haven't gotten punched by any of these guys. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you talk to them like you're Jesus, and you just hit them in the heart deep. And he's like, but somehow you do it in a way that they get it. They get that they're loved, even if you were kind of just taking a knife and just digging away at the issues in their life. And so it was fun to see that, and that was a big thing for me to start seeing about myself and in the work of doing stuff. In the mix of that, I had helped a guy. Again, I'd been working on my elementary education degree that was my angle that I was going. And a guy one night said, or I was helping him with his homework, his math homework. He's like, oh, I get it. And so I was like, oh, okay, great. And I woke up the next day, and it wasn't like God had like been like, go be an elementary teacher. But I just like a flip in my mind. And I was like, okay, I gotta go get my degree. I gotta get this figured out. And so started back in school, worked as a para with worked with special needs kids for about 4.5 years. Learned a lot there. It was just, again, an amazing thing to see when you give people value. Like, this is part of what for me on this side of things, is just giving people value and speaking of the value of their life is so huge, and it brings something that I don't think anything else can do, and that value obviously comes from Christ, we know that, but just giving that value, giving them a hope is just such a beautiful thing to spur up things in their lives, and working with kids that struggle with stuff and trying to just continue to encourage them about how valuable they are. So yeah, worked through my degree as I was doing that, and finally finished my elementary ed degree, and went right away. I graduated in December, so I didn't have an opportunity to get a first-time job at the beginning of the year. Took a long-term sub job at Wichita Collegiate and loved the school. They offered me a position to stay as a second grade teacher, give me a full-time position. And it was funny because this goes into, I don't know how God works all the time. It's part of an encouragement that I want to give, and things that we don't often see happen in the moment. But I had an opportunity to basically travel for $35 a ticket anywhere around the world to fly. I had a friend that made me her buddy pass through United. And so I took one trip in the summer, and then I was like, I got to take this job. I don't know why. And I'm not really somebody that is in my mind always wanting to take a job where I'm going to be stuck down. I'm like, I can travel and whatever. So I'm going to do that. But I took this job, and it was in second grade instead of third grade, which I was like, I don't know how to teach second grade. These kids are just babies. I have no idea what to do. And it was interesting because I learned in that time how to teach phonics. I learned how to teach the basics of so much of learning in terms of math, in terms of reading and stuff like that. So that leads into, had an absolutely terrible year. Loved the school, loved the people. I just personally had an awful year. And it was amazing. At the end of that, I was like, I'm spring break. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm never teaching again. I'm done. I love the kids, but I can't do this. And so I planned to move back out. I lived in Denver, like I said. Planned to move out there. Had everything that I was like, and I started saying, I've always said God's gonna mess up my plans. He always does. Like I plan something, he messes it up, and it's always better. But he always messes it up. So I started saying, no, I'm going to Denver, and God's not gonna mess it up. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do what I'm doing. Here's my plan. And so I planned to move out to Denver. Had some friends that were gonna let me live in their basement for $150, like a full finished basement, $150 a month, which is astronomically cheap out there. Just like I'm gonna go fly fish. I'm gonna mountain bike, and I'm gonna hike and camp and work, and that'll be it. And I was 4 days into that. Actually, sorry, I drove in. So this gets into Sudan. I'm gonna try to really pull it together real fast. But I drove into Denver the day my school finished this last year. I drove into Denver, like literally left my meeting at 11 a.m. and drove because I was like, I'm out of here. And I pulled into my buddy's driveway. Get out talking to him for a bit. His wife came home a few minutes later, asked what I was doing. They had known. There's a part as a kid. Sorry, I'm running out of time. As a kid, Sudan was always on my heart for some weird reason. We used to spin a globe, close our eyes, move our finger up and down, pray for whatever country we landed on. I landed on Sudan enough that my parents were like, "What the heck's going on? This is weird." And I was walking through a building at I think 5 or 6 in Belize, and a guy said, Josh, if you could be anywhere in the world, where would you be? And I guess I just matter of fact was like, Sudan, and just kept walking. And he was like, what the heck? So he told them, hey, your kid told me at 5 years old he's going to go to Sudan. Like, I don't even. So looking back at that, but so I had that as little things, especially in YWAM. Every once in a while, I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to go do this. It's Sudan. I'm going to do it. But it was always every 6 months, every year. It just kind of was something that popped up. So I drive in. I'm talking to my friend. His wife came home and said, oh, what are you going to be doing? And they had known about this stuff with Sudan, but I was like, oh, I'm not really sure, but I'm just going to get a job, enjoy life. And I was like right there, and she goes, oh, you're going to Sudan. And so it's pretty funny because you'd think like, holy smokes, like that should be a word from God, like, oh my gosh. And I was like, no, there is no ounce of me that wants to go to Sudan. Forget that, no. I had kind of just reached this point of being almost bitter of not doing what I just kind of wanted to do and just live and enjoy a 9 to 5 and go camp and fish when I wanted. So I was like, nope, no chance. So I was there for 4 days and went to a church with some friends, getting like lit up all morning by God, just feeling like I realized it was the first time I realized I was loved for no reason. Like God literally just opened my eyes so that he loves me. I can't do anything wrong and he's not going to stop loving me. It's just that he just loves us. And so I'm having that morning. And then this lady came up at the end of the church service, like beelines it at me. And she's like, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. And she goes, little part of when I was a kid, they used to call me Chicken Chasing Josh, because I'd be running around chasing chickens on our drive down to Mexico, like anywhere we stopped. And if there were chickens, I'm running around chasing them. So she says, hey, I don't know what this is or what it means, but when I first saw you, I knew that I was supposed to talk to you. And she said, I don't know, I saw this picture of you as a 5 or 6 year old kid, and you were a crazy little kid, but there was a place you needed to be. And in that moment, I only knew what she was saying. She didn't know what she was saying. And it was funny that 4 days before somebody had said Sudan, and I knew right then, God was like, this is it. And it was funny to look back going, almost like the first Sudan meant nothing, so it was almost like this one was him going, look, here is what I have for you. And so I just broke down. She said, hey, I'm crying, and she's still talking, and she's like, I know this is like the hardest year of your life. She's like, I've seen you just crawling through the desert. That's what I get. It's this picture. She said, but it's prepared you now to come to this beautiful green place. And it's this place that she's like, I can't even explain to you how beautiful this is, this place you're coming to. And so, it just again reassured what I had been feeling and thinking. And so right then I just said, all right, God, I'm going. I went to my friends there, sitting in their chairs. I said, I'm going to Sudan. I actually didn't even know that South Sudan was a new country. I had thought it was still Sudan. I didn't even know that much. I'm not a details guy. So I was like, I'm going to Sudan. I don't know how or when, but I'm going. And I from then just started putting things in play. I, within two weeks, had $10,000 by not even asking somebody. I would just talk to people about what happened. I'd tell the story, and they're like, how much money do you need? Because here's what we're going to do. And I mean, I had people with $500 checks, $1,000 checks. I had a friend give me $2,500, not even asking. And part of that was I had been like, okay, I'm going to go teach and train teachers. That was the organization that I got in contact with. They have a school on the orphanage, or on the campus. There's an orphanage of 125 kids and a school. They used to have a hospital. Quick South Sudan thing, there's a war that broke out. They earned their independence in 2011. The war broke out again in 2013. Since then, it's basically been pretty much a genocide from one group, and then they're all the different tribes are fighting each other. So, so the orphanage is the only thing left there, along with a little school where about 400 kids from the community come in, and so there's about 500 kids at the school. The organization I got in contact with, which is funny because a lady that used to babysit me as a kid, her and her husband were there, so they were my contacts. So again, just kind of the fun way that God works to get us to where He wants us to be and what He's wanting us to do. And it was just felt like I got to go, I got to do it. And so I had everything I needed, had my passport get back to me in like a ridiculous amount of time. It was just a couple days. I bought my ticket going, I got to go, and then it all came in. It was fine. Everything worked out great to do that. And so, I was there, left in about the middle of August last year. Showed up having no idea what to do, no idea what it looked like to be in that culture. I'd never been to Africa, so it was a whole new experience even compared to going to South America or Asia, just, again, cultures that are so different. And but my fourth day there, woke up to like bombs going off and machine gun fire. The war is basically right around our campus. There's about a mile from one side, there's the rebels, and a mile on the other side is the military. And so one morning, just that fourth day was a huge firefight. I mean, bombs right probably a quarter mile from us. A couple bullets whizzed over my head as I'm standing out under this, out on this soccer field, just kind of listening to everything go down. And so it was really funny because that's not funny, but I had no idea until my last day there. Our pastor that's on our campus had said that he's like, that minute when that happened that morning, he's like, I knew you were gone. I knew you were going to take off. And the American, the family from the U.S. that I was working with actually was flying out that day. So I was the only American there, only guy that wasn't a South Sudanese guy at this campus, and they were flying out. And so they called, hey, do you want to leave? I'm like, I can't leave. Like, there's no way I could leave. And but I didn't know that our pastor, my last day, said, I thought you were going to leave. There was no doubt. He's like, and that was the time I realized that you were Daniel in our lion's den with us. And I didn't do anything, but for whatever reason, that was just, for him, was a huge comfort. And that was taught there, worked to try to train teachers. This comes back to second grade and why it was so weird for me to look, but also see this, I think, the sovereignty of God, that I took a second grade job when I didn't want to, at a school I didn't really want to. Instead of traveling, I ended up teaching basically training the teachers in alphabetic phonics, because all of their reading is so messed up. They're the lowest education level in the world in South Sudan. And so got to do that, and it was just funny to go, if I hadn't taught that grade, if I hadn't done that, I would have had no idea what to do. I would have been there and been helpful, but I literally was able to help in a tangible way to a bunch of teachers to train these kids, and teach these kids. And I would have done my best, but I would have had no idea how to actually really be a good, solid teacher and train them. And so, again, kind of just the fun, crazy sovereignty of how God works, and that I ended up getting to travel all over with that. So kind of my travel that I thought I was losing, I gained, and I really experienced so much more out of it. So spent 6 months there in that time doing that. Another small thing but a big thing, our director is Kenyan, and so he finally was able to leave and go on a vacation back home. And he came back, and he asked if I was going to come back, if I was going to stay, all these questions. I told him, I was like, Morris, I was 4 days into moving to Colorado doing what I thought I was going to do when God told me to do this. So I can't tell you that I'm going to come back. I can't tell. I have no certainty of anything. And he said, well, if you don't, he said, I know why you're here. He said, for the first time in 10 years, I've been able to go home and be at peace knowing that you were here on our campus. And so, again, that was just such a cool thing to see. I didn't do anything. It wasn't me. Just our presence, I think, the presence of God in us, the gifts that he's given us, the things that he has allowed us to do. And so my encouragement to you is don't overlook your gift. Don't overlook what you may, the little things. It's all those little things you have no idea, and you may never see it. And it was just, that was a cool thing for me to be able to experience there with that. So yeah, there's, I'm trying to think what else to share about that time there. South Sudan is just, needs a lot of people going in and serving and working and bringing life, not just, not just the gospel. We need to go in with, if there's people or people want to just, it needs, the education system is completely busted. It is all of these things like that, the healthcare, there's nothing. And so if there's people looking to do stuff, it's a great place. At the moment, it's hard to get into. You have to have a sponsor, but if you know people, if they want to get a hold of me, anything like that, to try to sort things out or get in with an organization. There's just a lot that needs to be done. And with the people that are amazing, beautiful people that have just been run ragged by war So right now I left actually not wanting to go back. I just have been so frustrated kind of with just the different cultures, a culture that I was just talking to some of the other guys about their culture, and especially I think South Sudan, because they've been beaten down so much, they don't desire to do really anything different. They're okay with the status quo. They're okay with whatever that looks like any day waking up. And that's a whole different thing that was new to try to understand, the simplicity of that life. But it was so frustrating to me. I was like, God, I'm out. I can't go back. I can't do this again. And I was leaving on my way home, and just kind of had it as something that I was like, yeah, I'd still like to go back. I miss being there. I miss the people. I miss the kids. And so I'm not sure. I took a job here until December, sticking around here until then to love to go back, maybe make it kind of my summer thing, get back into teaching and make it my summer thing to go every year, to be able to go. I have a hope to try to get teachers that I can get funded to go so that they don't have to worry through the year or try to work really hard through the year to make and find the money to go, but to be able to take them over, whether that's to South Sudan or Uganda. There's 1.5 million refugees that are South Sudanese right in Uganda, right on the border. So being able to go and take them over, now that I know how to get there, now that I know what it's like to travel there, all that, I'm like, shoot, we can go and just have a blast trying to work with these teachers, trying to train them, and try to work with the kids there that we're able to. And so that's kind of my hope. I'm in a whole new spot now with life, being a gypsy again, that I have no idea what the heck's going to be next, and anything that I plan obviously never happens how I think. So, I have no certainty other than that God is good, and I know that, and that's another encouragement for you. But, so that's me and story.